Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered HR. I'm here with my friend Jeremy Higgins, who I'll introduce in a second. But kind of cool, we're on site somewhere today again for the first time in a while. We've been doing all virtual recordings, but Jeremy wanted the in-person experience, so here we are. And today we're at Cornerstone Capital out in Williamsville. They are a financial management firm. Dan Cavaretta, Joseph Ervelina. If you guys are looking for other options, either to shop out financial advisors for your 401k plans or shop them out altogether, great option. So thank you to Dan and his team for letting us be here. Jeremy, you're a client of Cornerstone Capital, right?
I am. Yeah, they
Satisfied
do great
client?
work. Absolutely.
Yeah.
They do great work.
Okay, great. And Jeremy's moving into this space too with his benefits agency, so many reasons to come out here. So thank you to them. So today we wanted to talk about employee benefits, and most of you maybe recognize Jeremy, at least in name, if you follow any of my content or if you're an existing client. Jeremy is my go-to benefits expert and guru. I basically recommend all of my clients to Jeremy, and none of them are ever disappointed. So he's here today to share with us information on benefits. And Jeremy, I know it's only July, and most people probably have like a January 1 renewal date or some type of calendar year cadence, but it's not too soon to think about benefits.
It's not too soon. In fact, we actually have some clients already wrapped up with their December 2024 renewals.
Wow.
With the challenges that we're going to be seeing this year, which we'll be talking about later in this content, now more than ever is a time to get ahead of this instead of behind, because it's not like the same renewals of years past.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's good, and that's definitely why we're doing this episode and what we're going to get into. But yes, if you heard that you are behind in your homework, you need to get on your renewal now. And today we're going to share information with you. Yes, I mean, I think everyone knows every single year it seems like rates go up significantly, and employers often are the ones holding the bag to eat those costs, or employees blame employers for the cost increases, but that's not even accurate or true. So today we're going to talk about what this looks like for 2025, especially in the Western New York market, and talk about maybe some tips and tricks that Jeremy has up his sleeve, without giving too much away, on how you can maybe mitigate some of those cost increases, but also enhance your employee benefit offerings so that you can still keep it to be a robust offering from a competitive standpoint, but not give away the farm, basically.
Yep,
All right.
exactly.
So Jeremy, bad news this year. Everyone's probably gotten the letters in the mail. The increases, the premium increases.
This is a very confusing time this year because all the carriers have to file their rates for 2025 by May 31st. And they have to give notification to all of their members, all right, of what their intent for the increase is. So those letters all just went out within the last 30 days. And we've seen the likes of 28% increases requested from Independent Health, 19% from Highmark, 15% from Univera. These are not the final rates. These are just the intent. New York State actually reviews and approves all of these rates. But it's a very confusing time because most clients actually still have to do their renewal this year. So those letters that just went out aren't necessarily for those that still have to renew up to December. That's next year's renewal.
Okay.
All right. So for those of you that are still renewing July, August, September, October, November, December, you're still looking at the letters that you got this time last year.
Okay. So if your renewal is your plan date, your plan year doesn't run with January 1st, and you're renewing still in 2024.
Yep.
It's the 2024 rates that will be subject to, not the
Right,
that,
which
that
are
makes
still
sense.
double-digit increases for the second year in a row.
Yeah, okay. And on top of that, so that's for employer-sponsored plans, right? And these are premiums for employer-sponsored plans. What about marketplace plans? Is there a big shakeup there? Because I'm on the marketplace myself as a single
Marketplace
provider.
plans, they follow the same suit as the group plans do, that those are filed for rates for January 1st from all the carriers. So those marketplace plans always change effective January 1st. And those took the biggest price increases they've ever seen last year. They're going to be backed by significant increases again here for 2024.
And is the goal to get people off the marketplace and onto employer plans? Is that why they're making the marketplace?
Well,
plans more
ideally, I
expensive?
mean, the premise behind the marketplace was designed specifically for folks that couldn't get insurance through their employer.
Mhm.
I work multiple part-time jobs, I'm not eligible, I'm not working, I'm a stay-at-home mom, whatever the case may be. That was the original intent of the marketplace. Because there are taxpayer subsidies that apply to that if eligible, if you meet certain income requirements. For employers, which really was the whole funding behind the Affordable Care Act,
Right.
was to make sure that the government wants it to be on the employers first, okay? And then for those that can't be covered under employer coverage, that's where the marketplace is supposed to answer that call.
So do you think more people are going to be coming off of the marketplace and onto their employer's plan if they aren't already on it? Because
Yeah.
with my clients, and if you're listening, like a lot of my clients, especially for the lower income type positions, a lot of their employees, although they're offering plans, are not participating in the employer plans. They're on the marketplace.
Yep.
Either because they're getting a subsidy they're eligible for, or maybe they're lying and they're not eligible for the subsidy, but for some reason they aren't drawn to the employer plan. But do you expect that to change?
I do expect there to be a change because really with COVID and the aftermath of COVID, the state was really lax on the audit process, right? So now if employer coverage is available to you and it's affordable, as some of the rules under the Affordable Care Act, there is a fixed percentage that employer has to contribute when you're an employer of 50 or more employees. For those under 50, it's kind of a toss-up, but group health insurance plans are less expensive than individual plans. For an attraction and retention tool, employers have to do something more than just salary to attract and retain employees. So I certainly see a trend of people on the individual marketplaces now trying to find more viable employer health insurance options.
Okay, yeah, so heads up, and that's something, well, that makes the content we're going to share even more useful in this podcast is if you don't have a high participation rate now in your benefit offerings, that may increase, especially in the next year, but into the next couple years, as the increases in premiums to the marketplace plans outpace the employer plans. And if employees are paying attention at all, or you're doing good open enrollment meetings, they should learn this information and hopefully in their financial best interest shift to your plans. However, that does then mean more costs for you benefits wise. But there's a way we can be creative about, offering rich benefits but not bankrupting.
Right, and this really applies to the groups that are teetering around that 50 employees, where I might have been below and now we've had some success or over 50, or I didn't realize I was supposed to be reporting and filing 1094s and 1095s. The IRS is now checking. We've had several clients that were audited with their 2021 1094s and were issued fines for not completing those forms correctly. So the IRS is now looking and will continue to look at those years going up. So they're just going to be catching up. So those that thought, I don't got to worry about it, now it's catching up to them.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Let's do, before we get into kind of creative best practice tips for benefit offerings and things that you guys I know do with clients, let's do a refresher course on what is required when it comes to employee benefits. Because when I meet with clients, quite often they have no idea. They're definitely not, they have obviously heard the acronym ACA and like Obamacare, but you're right, like no one's really been getting audited for doing their ACA reporting or other things. So a lot of people that I meet aren't doing it at all, and they're kind of getting away with it. But it sounds like, as we know from all things compliance related, people are getting away with less than ever. So first and foremost, basics of ACA. If you have 50 full-time equivalents, so if your employee population number is 50 full-time equivalents, which a bunch of part-time people can add up to 50 FTE, you need to comply with the Affordable Care Act, ACA, Obamacare, which means you have to contribute a minimum amount of money towards medical plan premiums, and obviously you have to offer medical plans as an employer, right? That's the gist of it.
It's a very complex sort of calculations and requirements. What is an FTE is always the biggest question that we get asked. As defined by the Affordable Care Act, a full-time employee is someone that works 30 or more hours.
That's right.
So not 40, 30. That's a big difference for a lot of organizations. So 30 hours, really the magic number is 1,560 hours in a year. And that's just what the IRS came up with, 30 times 52 weeks. So if somebody works 60 hours in a year, they're considered full-time in the eyes of ACA and have to be offered health insurance. Now that health insurance is offered, has to be deemed affordable, right? And the IRS has a very specific calculation on that. It's a percentage of income that a lowest wage earner has towards the lowest costing plan on the menu. Not necessarily the plan that the employee enrolls in, but the plan that's available to them. So it's very important when you look at your menu for ACA purposes, you got to make sure that you have a low plan option on there, so this doesn't kill you on that test, because that percentage keeps coming down from the IRS and health insurance premiums keep going up, which is forcing and squeezing that employer contribution to be greater and greater each year.
So because the percentage that of an employee's income that can account for their medical premium cost is getting smaller.
Correct.
Right? And then the plan costs are getting bigger. Okay.
Yeah, what was 9% and change last year has already been quickly reduced down to 8% and change this year, and then for 2025 it'll change again. So that is a ceiling of what an employee can contribute towards their cost of single health insurance plan.
Okay. So first you have to know what your FTE equivalent is, your full-time headcount equivalent is. And if you have a payroll system you're using, it usually can calculate that for you, but certainly if you have a decent benefit broker, which many do not, so they can help you look into that as well to know what your obligation is.
Export it out the data in Excel and do calculations. We've done a lot for that for clients, and have helped equivalent those FTEs, which depending on where you fall on that below or over, and the same for underwriting requirements with carriers, that can make a huge difference to the premiums and rates that you're paying.
Okay. So first of all, know if you guys are obligated to be offering medical plans, employer-sponsored medical plans, and also therefore then contribute to the premium of those plans for all of your employees, and then what that minimum amount needs to be. Does it comply with that ACA percentage, which changes each year? And the amount changes each year because it's a percentage of a changing dollar value cost of the plans. But then secondly too, make sure that you're offering these benefits to everyone who works 30 or more hours a week on average. So even if you define full-time in your business as 40 hours worked per week or some other number, the medical benefit eligibility needs to be defined as 30 or more hours, right?
And you as an employer can offer different employer contributions towards somebody that works 40 hours versus somebody that's 30 hours, as long as all contributions meet the ACA affordability.
So you can offer more for money toward full-time.
Exactly, right, because we don't typically define full-time as 30 hours, as most employers don't, but the ACA has other ideas, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, a lot of my clients will just redefine full-time as 30 hours, so you can just say all benefits are eligible at 30 hours, but there's pros and cons to doing that too.
Yep.
Yeah. And then in terms of the classes as well, another just kind of like getting into the tips here, you can definitely have different benefit eligibility classes for, management versus hourly staff versus more senior, executive staff, and can change and alter and modify your contributions per kind of level, as long as it's position specific, right? And uniform, not individual.
It's measurable and consistent. All right, so everybody's name that begins with a J is not a measurable class, but job duties, length of service, duration, job classifications, experience, these are all things that we have within IRS. It's one of the few things you as an employer still have some control over, but it's also one of the tips and tricks that we use to help maximize those dollars. So we've done things like years of service. We've done things, create that golden handcuff. We've done it based on levels of services. We've had a matrix where we had 20 different employer contributions. It sounds like a lot, but it was needed for a particular client. So you can make sure that you're driving behavior with your employee benefit strategy.
Yeah. And creating a more competitive recruitment or retention strategy for more key professional level roles, maybe versus hourly positions. And
even with turnover too, right? The last thing you want to be doing is throwing, very valuable benefit dollars towards folks that might not work out. So when you look at the low end people, maybe there's lower contributions or longer waiting periods to make sure that it's a good fit before you commit to offering benefits to somebody long term.
Okay. And on that note, you reminded me of waiting periods. So the maximum waiting period now you can have for a medical plan enrollment and eligibility is 90 days.
90
right?
days.
Yeah.
Yes. 90 days to the calendar day dot. So typically no one wants to count the months of February and throws that in. So typically we recommend first in the month following 60 days. That'll cover you for 61 to 89 days in all circumstances. So that's usually an easy way to say, hey, look, at least everybody hired in July. Okay, great. They're all eligible in September.
Okay. Yeah. Otherwise you have basically any option between 0 days and 90 days, right?
Correct.
To choose as an employer, you choose what you want your eligibility to be, and you may choose a shorter or larger one depending on
Yeah, some clients we have actually do date of hire.
Yeah, okay.
So it's just a matter of what works best for your situations for onboarding new hires. But typically, first of the month is what you see most commonly.
Okay. And then, and then annually, as a part of ACA, employers have to do ACA reporting, right? Which,
yeah.
I mean, we won't even get into the detail of that.
That's a whole other class.
But just know that you need to be doing that reporting each year, and it's difficult, right? Because like some of the information you need for that report is in the payroll system, but if you don't, especially if you don't manage employee benefits and enrollment in your payroll system, that's not in there as well. So you have to combine like your payroll provider and your broker perhaps together to try to put together this report, but you do have to do it every year.
You do. 1094s and 1095s are the biggest administrative headache, I think, that came out from the Affordable Care Act. It's a lot of moving parts, it's a lot of classifications. You really do need to make sure that you're checking on the accounting side of things, the benefit side of things, and the payroll side of things, because it's going to take all three things into consideration. Most payroll providers only have a couple of those benefits and still need involvement. So there's many payroll providers out there that, yeah, we'll do the 1099 or 1094s for you, but you do all the work, we put it in our system, and then we spit out the 1094, 1095s for you. So you as the employer is still doing that. What we do for some of my clients is we have some cool technology that's put in place that wraps it all in together and issues the 1094s and 1095s that's already vetted for compliance and proper setup. We use some of the data in conjunction with payroll, but makes it a lot easier, and we use technology to our advantage to try and take some of that administrative lift off of our client's shoulders. Because anyone that's ever done with 1094, 1095 knows how much fun those are.
Yeah, I think definitely most people aren't doing the reporting, they're taking their chances.
Yeah, people are probably throwing stuff at the monitor right now.
But another good reason to have a good payroll provider, not just in technological capability, and I know Jen's not here today, but you know, I solve TAG's disability as well, but also in kind of service and support as well. But then make sure you're utilizing that system as well as you can be, even in terms of just putting in there the data that you can upfront when you hire people, or you know, in terms of benefits enrollment, because that will make, you know, better data in, makes for better data out and reporting, and it'll make your life easier later for reporting.
And the IRS is now checking, so we've seen that now. They're actively and aggressively checking.
Great. Just what we need. All right, so that's pretty much, those are the biggies for medical benefit mandated employer activity, right? Okay. And then just for good measure, other mandated benefit type obligations of employers. So you got your workers' comp policy that you need, right? I mean, hopefully everyone that is listening to this has that. Your disability policy. Yeah,
disability, and everyone's favorite, paid family leave.
Yeah, okay, and those are, so disability and paid family leave are usually the same carrier, like a Shelter Point or something.
Yeah, they
like
have
that.
to be now, since that came out, so.
And then workers' comp is often separate, right?
It does, right, and they go hand in hand. You just want to make sure, like, statutory disability isn't what it used to be. It used to be very simplistic and went hand in hand with your workers' comp carrier, but that's usually handled by property and casualty brokers. You want to make sure now that with PFL component, it really is a benefit now, and needs to make sure that you're on top, because the intermittent and continuous leave with the PFL, along with, especially with your size, if you're FMLA, eligible for that, there's a lot of tracking that goes into that now, and there really needs to be a little bit more maintenance and hand-holding as it relates to those, and make sure you're doing everything you're supposed to do, and people are taking leaves when they're eligible, qualified, and not abusing the system.
Yeah, leave management and abuse and administration is like a ubiquitous like opportunity for improvement in every client that I work with. And there are past episodes of Unfiltered HR that talk about leave management, so definitely check those out. And I think we have webinar recordings that we've done together before on the website too. So if the acronyms that we're using are foreign language to you, or you know your ears are breaking up because you're having leave administration or abuse issues in your business, definitely check out those other episodes. But yeah, make sure that you have those policies in place if you're an employer in New York State, and that you have the deductions and things that need to be set up in payroll to pay for those set up as well. Okay, the other thing I'll just mention really quick. Remember we did an episode recently, maybe you watched it, Jeremy, on 401k or retirement plan savings obligations, which are now pretty new. Before it wasn't mandated, now it is in New York State. I mean, there hasn't been a drop dead date given yet for that, and the enforcement isn't there yet, but I'm sure it's coming. The IRS will just add it to their checklist with these benefit audits. So make sure if you don't know about that, you go back and watch that episode too, because you do need to have a way to facilitate retirement savings as part of your benefit offering now as a New York State employer.
Yep.
And probably coming to the whole nation soon. So, all right, Jeremy. So we'll get into the magic of this episode now. We talked about what people should expect this year, what changes, what people have to do. Let's talk a little bit about maybe some tips on what they should do at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last year we probably saw the biggest increases that we've seen in 10 years, right, on that. This is followed up by your 2024 renewals being double-digit increases, and 2025, unfortunately, is going to be the same news. So that's double-digit increases 3 years in a row. So health insurance is always the biggest, the most important aspect of it because it's the most expensive.
Yep.
But looking at your benefit strategy as a whole, I think really needs to be that approach that needs to take place. We had a client that renewed earlier this year that was facing that 15% price increase. We were able to keep it with the same carrier, right? Tweak the plan designs, deliver benefits differently, but we negated 100% of the price increase, all right, and delivered high-level benefits, just delivered it differently, all right, using high deductible plans with HRAs, with other services, all right, that for the holistic dollars that you put into the employee benefit strategy, we are able to spend the same amount, just redesign it all with all these other pieces connecting to each other to help solve the problem than just health insurance itself. And that really worked out as a wonderful experience, not only to the bottom line for the company, but it was well received by the employees as well.
So their benefit contribution overall spend remained the same, and employees kept a similar richness menu.
Versus a 15% increase, which would have been $50,000 to the bottom line. So without that number increasing, still delivered high-level benefits, just a little bit differently, which requires education, right, and use, right? A little scary. Take that first step because it's change. Humans are not creatures of habit. Or they're creatures of habit. Change is a tough thing. So by implementing that and getting that education up front, which is part of where we started with earlier in the presentation, right? Getting ahead of these renewals early, so you have time to prepare and roll out these types of changes.
Yeah, I do. I see a lot of my clients, they wait till a month before the renewal to even, first of all, shame on your provider if they're not even contacting you about the renewal until a month before. But and then you can't even fathom making any changes because you can barely digest and process the fact that you have to like flip a renewal in a month.
3-4 years ago, that might have been okay when it was really status quo and we were seeing low to mid single digit increases and very little change to the plans or innovations. The carriers are trying to be as creative as they can with new plan designs and options, and we got to take advantage and evaluate. Some of them hit, some of them are complete misses, and then they go back to the drawing board. So certainly though, looking at the whole picture as a whole, I think is really key, and it's time to really explore benefits. So you haven't really taken a good look in the last couple of years. I think now's the time to roll up your sleeves just to explore all the options that may be available to you.
Yeah, tweaking your menu. So like looking at your benefit classes and, again, maybe you don't contribute across the board the same percentage or the same dollar value amount to everybody. Maybe you realize that strategically it's better for you to like move that around. Or I know we have a mutual client now because you're working with them who, in hospitality, difficult to hire and retain managers. They took a strategy of offering a richer premium contribution toward their management staff compared to what they've done in the past, or their hourly staff just doesn't try to compete in the marketplace and offer something different than other employers.
And it shows. We've worked with some large companies that did an employee survey, and they were just absolutely demotivated from the benefit offerings. It was the cause for a lot of turnover at that organization. We came in, invested time, effort, and energy into those benefits and enhanced them, did the exact same survey 1 year later, and we went from probably 25% satisfaction to north of 85% satisfaction on the benefits, and it had a direct correlation to turnover within that organization. We all know how hard and costly turnover is to organizations today.
And everybody who's recruiting out there right now knows how hard it is to find good people. The numbers seem to have gone up, but the quality of candidates is not.
Yeah, that's quality, not quantity. That's the key.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Like, and some employers may think, well, we don't want people to participate in our benefits because it's just going to cost us more money, so what do we care? But if you think about the more, it's kind of like engagement, right? Like engagement is kind of a nebulous HR topic, but the more engaged your employees are at work, which engagement is a real measurable thing, and that includes benefit utilization, right? Like the more likely it is they are to feel not only appreciated and valued, but also less likely to leave because they have a lot of different skin in the game and their life is integrated in the business in a lot of different ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and we had another client that actually contributes a very high percentage towards the health insurance plans, intentionally on a very rich plan, but it was in the roofing industry. So you would think, oh, in the roofing industry, but turnover is so tremendously low at that organization to have those people there with that length of service and experience underneath them allows them to be very competitive in the marketplace. To keep that, and turnover is not a concern to them as it is with maybe many of their competitors in the area of just that churn and burn as far as new players go. So that's where they're using benefits as a really key tool to help retain and attract employees, which is having a tremendous impact on the bottom line.
That's great, and a lot of that comes down to education on the benefits, right? Which again is something I see done not necessarily intentionally, but just there's so many other things going on in business, and if you're a small business owner, there's only so much you can spend your time doing. But if you don't have a broker or provider that's offering to come out or coming out and doing actual value add robust meetings every year at the time of renewal to educate your employees on what these offerings are and how they benefit them and why it's better to go with the employer plan than maybe the marketplace plan and all these things that'll promote engagement and therefore retention, that's not right, Jeremy. You know how I feel about it, and this is why I recommend you, because I know you're going to take care of people, but if you have a broker that's not coming out or you can't even think of who their name is right now, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's important. It's not so much a vendor anymore. We position ourselves with our clients as a trusted advisor, no different than your accounting team, your legal team. From that aspect of it, benefits have gotten so complex, and there's so much overlap now with compliance, which affects the HR side of things, the legal side of things, accounting side of things, finable offenses for not getting things done, your bottom line. It truly is a new frontier out there with how integrated benefits are, and with all of the compliances and continued compliances at the state and federal level, and who knows what's to come. I mean, what has New York thrown at us in just the last 3 months alone?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's going to be a wild end of the year too. Okay, so look at your menu, look at your offerings, be strategic about how you place them around. Add additional things that might make sense, like the health savings plans of any kind, HRA, HSA, FSA. Don't worry, Jeremy will tell you what all those things mean. Also, disability offerings, that's something I see a lot, supplemental disability. So, for those of you that don't know, if employees get injured outside of work or sick and they have to miss time, they can file a New York State disability claim, but that's only getting them $170 a week compared to like paid family leave, which is to care for someone else, which is 67% of their pay. So that's a great real value add benefit offering for employees, because I don't know who could live on $170 a week, and no one's planning to get injured or sick, but it's something that would be very significant in a time of need for your staff should they need to have it. So something else to look into. I think that's a great, ethically and morally good value add benefit to offer.
And it's not as expensive as you think to protect an employee's paycheck with standalone or group short-term disability coverage plans. So certainly something to take a look at.
Not everybody, you get crafty with that too.
Not everyone's as adverse. Not everyone's as adverse and comfortable with that because there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to that. Now there are some grumblings that possibly New York might think for the first time ever of increasing the state disability wage, but like anything else in New York, a whole lot of talk. So. Stay tuned on that if that may impact it, but that could change things.
That was in the budget in April, and prenatal leave and paid breaks for nursing mothers and stuff got passed instead of protecting everyone's paycheck.
Correct.
Okay, we'll see what happens next year. I'm sure it'll make it in there. COVID leave will go away next year finally, and the disability will be.
I know a lot of clients are waiting for that to go away because it is tabled to sunset next year unless they extend it again.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They're not coming. There's no one.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
All right. So, any other tips, Jeremy?
Really, again, just taking a look at a holistic plans are what you're looking at. Technology, I think, is a big part of too, to look at that as AI continues to advance. There are some cool tools that you can take advantage of, either just educating or completing things, doing it faster, easier, connections between that. So
A lot of
technology.
your payroll systems have built-in benefits management and enrollment systems. If not, you can integrate with others.
Yeah, we have online enrollment systems that talk to almost all the payroll systems that's out there. So then if you do end up changing payroll, because not everybody's married to their payroll provider, but if you do need to make a change, there's the standalone enrollment system can talk to various systems, so you don't necessarily have to change that. But not all enrollment systems are made the same, so sometimes it's a shiny new toy, but make sure that it's actually the time, effort, and energy to support it is actually going to help.
Right, yeah, it can become a nightmare just making sure those connections are working and everything like that. But I will say, that's one of my biggest tips too, is just make sure that you're actually meeting your obligations for this stuff too, because you can say and have a menu set up with your benefit provider that you offer benefits to employees, but if you're not letting them know at the time of hire, in the time they become eligible, having them sign off on waivers that they should be signing off on if they're not taking the plans, you have to be able to defend that you're meeting the ACA requirements, and part of that is notifying people of eligibility and making sure they are able to enroll when they are eligible to enroll. So you want to build that into your onboarding process and checklist, and if that's electronic, it's easy to throw that information in there.
A lot more than a benefit summary.
Yeah, way more. Yeah. It stacks up, yes. And then again, one of my biggest tips is just holding your provider accountable, which I've already probably mentioned 5 times, but as you know, I get pretty fired up about that when I have clients, and that's when I hand them over to Jeremy, because if you don't know the name of your provider, if you never see them, they're not offering to help facilitate open enrollment meetings or manage the process, or give you really nice summaries of benefit offerings that you can throw into your onboarding packets or whatever it is, they're not doing what they should be doing for you, right? They're making money off of you, and they should be providing some level of service as a result of that. I guess they don't need to be, but there's people out there that will, so why would you accept anything else? I don't know.
Last tip, I just want to make sense. A lot of folks are probably going to be looking for any way they can to help save dollars. So just be aware of the hot buzzwords that are out there right now. You've heard the concepts of ICRA accounts, consortiums, self-funding, captives. These are all things that are not new by any sense. They've been around for a long time, but they're not necessarily even able to have, depending on your company size, or B, might not be a good fit, right, depending on where you're coming from. So make sure you at least do your homework or talk to somebody that's familiar with all those concepts, so you can compare and contrast those different values in addition to your traditional group health insurance plans. So we are starting to see a lot of that pop up now, where people are getting some misinformation.
There's disinformation even in benefits.
In benefits, where how would you like to pay $50 or $100 less? Well, it sounds too good to be true. Well, chances are it might be, because it's not actual health insurance. You see that a lot more on the individual marketplace expense, or even on the Medicare side of things, than you do on group insurance, but we're starting to see that pop up now.
Get second and third opinions. If something seems too good to be true, it very may likely be, and before you sign any dotted line, definitely talk with I work with my clients all the time on information they get from their 401k provider, their benefits provider, or payroll provider, because they have a lot of skin in the game to want to kind of pull the wool over your eyes from a financial standpoint, and you should get another opinion. We try to help where we can.
Exactly.
And then any common pitfalls or mistakes. I know something I see just in general is that employers don't take compliance with this stuff seriously. So they're making kind of handshake deals under the table on an individual basis when it comes to benefit contributions, and or I see a lot of times, instead of offering actual employer sponsored plans, they just decide to give people an extra $500 a month in their paycheck that they can then use to go on the marketplace. But that's one, if you're ACA required, not compliant, and two, there's all sorts of tax benefits. It's pre-tax dollars that can be used to pay for, right, medical premiums. And
Yeah.
if you're giving them $500 in their paycheck, that's going to be taxed like income, and they lose, 25% of that in spending power right there, and they would not do that if it was medical premium contribution, right?
Yeah, I think in today's day and age and how connected we all are, via social media or whatever the case, and post-COVID, right, I think it's a lot harder now to get by with those kind of handshake deals and those
Mhm.
one-off arrangements without somebody else getting wind of it.
Mhm.
And those are huge compliance issues. What most people don't know, like if you have a group health insurance plan, you need to have a Section 125 premium only plan, okay? Which is what allows you to take your benefits on a pre-tax dollar basis, which
Okay.
benefits you and the employer.
Okay.
But what most people don't know they have to have is an ERISA 402 section 402 wrap document, SPDs.
Okay.
This is a legal document
Summary
that's
plan.
summary plan descriptions for all of your
SPDs.
benefits. Every size company, regardless of the size, has to have one of those.
Yeah.
Right? By
And that
law.
doesn't come standard when you create a plan with a
No,
provider?
no, carriers might provide their piece, but they don't provide the whole picture of it. And even those
Okay.
carriers, you have to ask for it by request, or they just don't. So
Okay.
whether you go to an attorney to write those plans or not, those could cost thousands of dollars depending on where you are. So there are tools and
Mhm.
resources out there, but most clients, when we talk to them about that through our services, I haven't heard of that, and then we show them, it's a finable offense for not having that. So
Mhm.
right along the lines of all of the things that you just said, those things are now starting to get audited and reviewed by the IRS for a compliance point of view. And all you need is one person who's disgruntled to blow up an arrangement that you made
As you know.
that causes a whole lot of issues. And the last thing you want is New York State or the Department of Labor,
Right.
all right, coming into your workforce.
And as we've talked, they work together now to kind of,
Yep.
blow employers in for,
Right.
the different agency violations. So.
Right, and as we mentioned in classes earlier, there's a lot of cool creative things that we can do that are all compliant
Right.
to work on side arrangements or deals if you're looking to do different things. But it's better to define it and make sure it's
Yeah.
right, because it's going to save you a whole lot of headache
You
later
can
down
be
the road.
creative and compliant.
Exactly.
That's, I feel,
Exactly.
what we do
Exactly.
at LHR Partners too.
Exactly.
We're not going to tell you not, how to violate the law, but we're going to help you. It's not as black and white as it seems, and it's
Right.
not as, a lot of these requirements are not as damning as they seem.
Right.
Yeah, and it just takes I'll say a master, because
Right,
not
so-
only do we know what we're talking about, but, you've applied it enough and seen enough scenarios to then be able to apply it, the
Right.
knowledge creatively. Yeah.
Right. Best practices at a mastery level.
Yes. Okay. Well, I wish we had some whiskey to cheers to that right now. All right. Anything else that we should mention before we go?
No, other than if you can, right, get a head start on your employee benefits renewals this
Yeah,
year. If you
start
still
now.
have it for 2023, rates that are renewing in 2024, now's the time. Carriers will have the final rates. The state will approve all the rates by the end of August. So come
Mhm.
September, we'll actually know what all the rates for the community world is going to look like for 2025.
Okay. Can't
So,
wait. I'm sure we're all
Put your
waiting.
seatbelts on
with
for that
bated
one,
breath.
because I'm sure it's not going to be a decrease.
Yeah, no, I already got. I think my marketplace plan is like 40% or something, so that's really fun. Well, my final recommendation is to reach out to Jeremy. If you are unhappy, unsatisfied, unsure at all about whether or not you're in the best hands when it comes to this stuff, or frankly, every good business relationship deserves a little and can benefit from some healthy competition. So I would say reach out to Jeremy and his team. Jeremy Higgins Agency Group. We'll put information below this episode to links to reach out. But like I said, I've been working with Jeremy now for probably, for 7 years, maybe?
Yep.
6 or 7 years. Pretty much the only person, as long as they're in the area and you could do it, that I will send referred benefits business to, and I've never had a client that's been disappointed, and Jeremy always makes me look way better. So thank you,
I
Jeremy.
appreciate
Yeah,
that.
please
Yeah.
reach out if you guys, you'll be in very good hands, and just see what you can do. It's, I think a lot of businesses can't offer as many wage increases now, salary and hourly increases. So there's ways you can still enhance your total comp offerings this year, maybe, without even spending very much more money through creative benefit offerings that will actually really benefit your staff, like the disability and other things we talked about.
Yeah,
So.
and it is, right, obviously, friends of Emily are friends of ours, so we're happy to just have a conversation too, if you just want to run something by us. I mean, we're easy to talk to, so feel free to reach out.
And most of the time you're going to talk directly to Jeremy, so that's nice. It's a small business, helping small business, and that's what you specialize in, right? Want to
Yeah.
make that point, small businesses, so.
Exactly. Born and raised Western New York, so.
Yeah. Go Bills. Jen's not even here, but go Bills. The Bills still made it
Gotta
in.
make sure we slide that in there.
All right, well, thank you, Jeremy. And
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you. We'll have you back again, talk about something else. Maybe more fun next time.
Great. All right, thank you, everybody.
Bye.